Imagine this. Your own son locks you in your bedroom, rips away your phone, and refuses to call an ambulance while you're gasping for breath. That's what happened to me, and what came after would change everything. If you don't want to miss stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The house was quiet, except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the old wall clock in the living room. Evelyn sat in her recliner, wrapped in a thin blanket, staring at the shadows stretching across the ceiling. Her chest throbbed with a pressure that wasn't new, but tonight felt heavier, sharper, like a stone pressing harder with every breath. She reached for the glass of water on the side table. Her hand trembled, the rim clinking against her teeth. A drop spilled down her chin. She dabbed it with the edge of the blanket, annoyed at her own weakness. "Jason?" she called, her voice unsteady. Her son's footsteps came down the hallway after a moment, slow and heavy. Jason appeared in the doorway, phone in hand, his face glowing in the bluish light of the screen. "What now, Mom?" His tone was flat, irritated, as though she'd interrupted something important. Evelyn pressed her hand against her chest. "I need an ambulance. It's happening again. The pain." She sucked in a shallow breath. "Call someone, please." Jason leaned against the doorframe, scrolling with his thumb. He didn't look up. "You're fine. You get like this whenever you get nervous. Panic attacks. Remember what the doctor said?" "This isn't nerves, Jason," she snapped, the sharpness cutting through her fear. "This is worse. Please, I need help." Finally, Jason raised his eyes, his jaw tight, his expression unreadable. He slipped his phone into his pocket, walked over, and instead of reaching for hers, he picked it up from the table beside her chair. Evelyn's hand twitched toward it, but he was quicker. "What are you doing?" Her voice rose, startled. Jason held the phone out of reach. "You don't need this right now. You're just going to work yourself up." He crossed the room, opened the bedroom door, and motioned for her to move. Evelyn blinked, confused. What? What are you doing?" "Go lie down. You'll feel better in the morning." Her chest burned with pain, but she stumbled toward the room, clutching the doorframe for balance. Jason guided her inside, then shut the door firmly. The click of the lock echoed louder than it should have. Evelyn froze. Her breath caught in her throat, the pressure in her chest rising in waves. She pressed her palms against the door. "Jason!" she shouted, her voice raw. "Open this door! Don't do this!" Silence. Then his footsteps retreating down the hall. Evelyn's heart thudded in her ears. The room was dim, the shadows long. She pressed her forehead against the wood, her hand clawing at the knob that refused to turn. The realization hit her like a fresh blow. She wasn't just in pain. She was trapped. The air in the room grew heavier by the minute. Evelyn paced slowly at first, then staggered back to the bed, clutching her chest. The tightness was worse now, like invisible ropes cinching tighter with every breath. She pressed her ear against the door. Nothing. No television, no footsteps, not even the creak of the old floorboards. Jason had vanished into silence. "Jason!" she shouted again, pounding the door with the side of her fist. "This isn't a joke. I can't breathe right." The only reply was the dull echo of her own hand against the wood. She turned toward the window. The glass was cool beneath her palm, the night outside black and empty. Across the street, the neighbor's porch light glowed faintly, but it felt miles away. She thought about opening the window, yelling for help, but the effort alone might rip what little breath she had left. Her body screamed for rest, but her mind stayed sharp with anger. Why would he do this? Jason wasn't a saint, but he had always been her boy, her only son. She had carried him through years of scraped knees, late-night fevers, and teenage tantrums. She had worked double shifts to get him through college, and now he was shutting her away like she was nothing but a burden. The doorknob rattled suddenly. Evelyn spun, her heart leaping. The lock clicked, and the door creaked open just enough for Jason's face to appear in the sliver of light. "You need to calm down," he said flatly, no trace of concern in his eyes. "I need a hospital," she cried. "Jason, if you don't call an ambulance, I could die in here." He tilted his head, studying her as if weighing her words. Then, with a cool shrug, he muttered, "You'll live. You always do." Before she could speak again, he shut the door and turned the lock once more. The sound hollowed her out, filling her chest with a new kind of pain, fury. She pressed her back against the door, breathing in shallow, ragged pulls. The betrayal cut deeper than the chest pain itself. It wasn't just neglect. It was deliberate. "Jason," she whispered to the silence, her voice trembling with rage now, not fear. "You'll regret this." Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed, her hand pressed against her chest, her breaths shallow. The room seemed smaller now, the walls closing in. Every creak of the floor outside made her nerves jolt like sparks. Then she heard it, Jason's voice, muffled, low, but close enough through the door. He was on the phone with someone. "She's fine," Jason muttered. "No, I'm not calling anyone. She exaggerates, like always. Yeah, same thing she used to pull when I was a kid. Makes everything about her." Evelyn's blood ran cold. He wasn't talking to a doctor. He was venting. Maybe to a friend? She pressed her palm flat against the wood, as though she could reach through it. "You think I don't see it?" Jason's tone grew sharper, bitter. "She ruined everything. All those years pushing me, telling me what I should do, what I could be. I gave up everything for her. And now, she still expects me to bow down and play the good son?" A silence followed. Evelyn's chest ached, not just from the pain inside her body, but from the words cutting through her. She wanted to shout back, to tell him he was wrong, that she had fought for him, sacrificed for him. But her voice wouldn't carry. All that came out was a rasp, half breath, half sob. Jason's footsteps drew closer. The door rattled again, and this time he opened it wide enough to step halfway inside. His shadow loomed long in the dim light. "You know what, Mom?" he said, his voice steady, too steady. "I used to think you were invincible. Nothing could touch you. But look at you now." Evelyn tried to rise, but her body betrayed her. She gripped the mattress to steady herself, glaring up at him. "You're my son," she said hoarsely, "and you're locking me away to suffer? For what? Some twisted revenge?" Jason's jaw tightened, but his eyes didn't flinch. "Maybe you'll finally understand what it feels like to be powerless, to beg, to be ignored." The venom in his words stung deeper than any wound. Evelyn's chest heaved as anger surged through her veins, hotter than the pain. He stepped back and shut the door again, the lock sliding into place. Evelyn sank onto the bed, her teeth clenched, her fury hardening into something sharper. If he thought she would die quietly in that room, he didn't know her at all. The room pressed down on Evelyn, thick with stale air and silence. Her chest still burned, but anger kept her upright. She refused to collapse here, not under Jason's watch, not in the prison her own son had made for her. She scanned the room, desperate. The dresser stood against the far wall, its top cluttered with forgotten things. Old photographs and frames, a chipped lamp, a box of mismatched buttons. Drawers that hadn't been opened in months, maybe years. Her fingers trembled as she yanked one open. Socks folded haphazardly. Another drawer, scarves, a tangle of fabric. The third drawer jammed halfway, swollen with age. She pulled harder, her breath coming in ragged gasps. It gave way suddenly, nearly spilling onto the floor. At the bottom, beneath a pile of old receipts and faded birthday cards, she saw it. Small, dusty, but unmistakable. An old flip phone. The emergency backup she had tossed there years ago and forgotten. Evelyn's heart kicked against her ribs. Her hands shook as she flipped it open. The screen lit up faintly, the battery symbol blinking red. She pressed the power button. It hummed weakly to life. Come on, just one call, please. She scrolled through the faded contacts with clumsy fingers until she landed on a familiar name. Her neighbor, Mrs. Carter, a kind woman who still baked pies for church gatherings. She pressed call. The phone buzzed once, twice. The door handle jiggled. Evelyn froze. The lock clicked and the door creaked open. Jason's figure filled the doorway, his eyes narrowing instantly at the sight of the glowing phone in her hands. What the hell is that? His voice was sharp, slicing through the air. Evelyn's stomach dropped. She fumbled to hide the phone behind her, but her weak hands betrayed her. Jason lunged forward, his shadow stretching over her, his hand outstretched like a claw. "Give it to me," he snapped. Evelyn twisted, clutching the device to her chest like it was her last heartbeat. Her voice, though weak, cut sharp. "You will not silence me." Jason's face hardened, his rage plain now, no mask of calm left. For the first time, Evelyn saw it clearly. Her son didn't just want her quiet. He wanted her broken. And that, she promised herself, would never happen. Jason's hand clamped around Evelyn's wrist, his grip hot and merciless. The old flip phone slipped from her grasp, clattering to the floor. Jason snatched it up, snapping it shut with a sharp click. "You think you're clever," he sneered. "You just don't quit, do you?" Evelyn's chest ached with each breath, but fury carried her voice. "I needed help, Jason, that's all. And you," she spat the words out, "you'd rather watch me suffer than lift a finger." His eyes flickered, and for the briefest moment she saw something inside them. Hurt, maybe, but it hardened into anger as quickly as it came. "You don't get it, Mom," he said, pacing now, the phone dangling in his hand. "All my life, it was about you. Your job, your rules, your sacrifices. You told everyone I was spoiled, but the truth, I gave up everything for you. Every time I wanted to leave, every time I wanted to chase something, you pulled me back. You never cared what it cost me." Evelyn forced herself upright, gripping the bedpost for balance. I cared, Jason, more than you'll ever know. But caring isn't the same as letting you destroy yourself." Her words sliced, and Jason flinched, but his rage surged back. He hurled the phone against the wall. It cracked, the pieces scattering across the floor like broken teeth. "You'll sit here," he growled, "and you'll think about what it feels like to be powerless." He stepped closer, his face only inches from hers. "And when you finally realize what you did to me, maybe then I'll open that door." He stormed out, locking it behind him. The echo of the slam rattled through her bones. Evelyn collapsed onto the bed, her breath shallow and wheezing. Sweat dampened her forehead, her nightshirt clinging to her chest. She pressed her fist against her ribs, fighting to stay present, fighting against the darkness that tugged at her vision. Her son thought she would fold, that she would crumble into regret and silence. But Evelyn knew better. The fury burning in her gut told her so. She whispered into the dark, her voice sharp, steady despite the pain. "You will regret this, Jason. I swear it." The room reeked of stale sweat and fear, but Evelyn refused to sink into it. She sat upright on the bed, her body trembling, her breath ragged. Her son thought she was broken. He was wrong. Her eyes drifted to the shattered pieces of the flip phone on the floor. Jason hadn't bothered to sweep them up, too consumed by his own rage. Evelyn slid off the bed, every movement sharp with pain, and crawled across the floorboards. Her fingers found the fragments, plastic shell, buttons, and then the battery. She held it in her hand, small and lifeless, but a reminder of hope. If she could salvage even a part of it, if she could get word out, maybe she still had a chance. But even if the phone was gone, she still had her voice, her window, her will. She dragged herself toward the curtains and yanked them open. The cool night air seeped through the glass, carrying the faint sounds of crickets and a distant dog barking. Across the street, the Carters' porch light still glowed. If she could just get their attention. Evelyn raised her hand, banging on the glass with what strength she had left. The sound was muffled, too soft. She tried again, harder. Her chest flared with pain, but she ignored it, slamming her palm until her skin stung. A shadow moved in the yard across the street. A figure stepped onto the porch, pausing under the yellow light. "Please," Evelyn whispered, fogging the glass. She banged again, desperation in every strike. "Look up, just look up." But before the neighbor's gaze could turn, the door behind her burst open. Jason stormed in, eyes blazing. He saw her at the window, and something snapped inside him. "You think you can make me the fool?" he snarled, yanking her away from the curtains. She stumbled backward, nearly collapsing. "You're sick," Evelyn spat, her voice like steel despite her weakness. "Not me. You're the one who needs help." Jason's hand hovered in the air, trembling as though he wanted to strike her. But he stopped, his lips curling into a cruel smile instead. "No," he said softly, chillingly calm now. "You're the one who's going to learn." He stepped back, shutting the curtains tight, plunging the room into shadow again. Then the door slammed, the lock snapping shut. Evelyn's body ached, but her spirit sharpened. She wasn't just fighting for her life anymore. She was fighting to make him pay. Evelyn sat in the dark, her body screaming with pain, but her mind sharp as a blade. She could hear Jason moving through the house, heavy footsteps back and forth, sometimes muttering under his breath. He was unraveling. She looked again at the pieces of the broken phone scattered across the floor. Most of it was useless, but one fragment, the sharp edge of the cracked plastic, caught her eye. She picked it up, the jagged corner cutting lightly into her palm. A weapon, small and crude, but something. Her heart hammered as she listened. Jason's footsteps grew louder again, then stopped outside her door. The lock clicked, and the door creaked open. He stepped in, his face shadowed, his eyes dark and hollow. "You ready to stop fighting?" he asked softly, his voice like poison. Evelyn hid the plastic shard behind her back. She lifted her chin, her voice rasping but sharp. "I'll never stop fighting." Jason smirked, shaking his head. "You never learn, do you?" He stepped closer, looming over her. Evelyn's grip tightened around the shard. She could feel her strength slipping, but the fire in her chest was stronger than the pain. She waited until he leaned close, until she could smell the bitterness of his breath. Then she slashed. It wasn't deep, but it startled him. He staggered back, clutching his arm where the jagged plastic had grazed him. His expression twisted from shock into pure fury. "You crazy old woman!" he bellowed. Evelyn didn't hesitate. She shoved past him with the last of her strength, stumbling into the hallway. Her vision blurred, her body threatening to collapse, but she pushed on, one hand dragging along the wall for balance. Jason's roar echoed behind her, his footsteps pounding after her. She reached the front door and clawed at the deadbolt. Her fingers slipped, slick with sweat. Jason was only steps away, his shadow looming. And then a knock. A heavy, firm knock at the front door. "Evelyn? Jason? Everything all right in there?" It was Mr. Carter's voice, muffled but unmistakable. Jason froze. His rage faltered, panic flickering across his face. Evelyn's chest heaved as she twisted the lock with trembling fingers. The bolt slid free with a metallic snap. She pulled the door open just as Jason lunged for her arm. The porch light spilled over her face, and Mr. Carter's eyes widened in shock at the sight of her, pale, sweating, shaking. "Call an ambulance," Evelyn gasped, her voice cutting through the night. Jason's grip tightened on her arm, but his mask of control was gone. The truth was out, and there was no taking it back. Mr. Carter froze for only a second before bellowing over his shoulder, "Martha, call 911, now!" Jason's hand still clamped on Evelyn's arm, but his grip faltered. His eyes darted between his pale, trembling mother and the neighbor staring at him with suspicion. "Let her go, Jason," Mr. Carter said firmly, his voice heavy with warning. Jason's mask cracked. "She's exaggerating," he began, but Evelyn cut him off, her voice sharp as broken glass. "He locked me in," she snapped, the words tumbling out hot and furious. "He took my phone. He wouldn't call for help. He wanted me to die in that room." The porch light carved Jason's face into harsh lines. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Behind them, Mrs. Carter's voice carried from her porch. "The ambulance is on its way, and the police." Jason's grip finally broke. Evelyn yanked her arm free, stumbling into the night air. The cool breeze kissed her damp skin, a relief so sharp it almost hurt. She pressed one hand against the porch railing, steadying herself, refusing to collapse. Not now, not in front of him. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Jason's eyes widened, panic overtaking rage. He backed toward the door, muttering, This isn't how it's supposed to go." Evelyn's voice cut through him, low and steady, each word sharpened by betrayal. "No, Jason, you don't get to decide how this goes. Not anymore." The flashing red lights painted the street seconds later. Paramedics rushed to her side, guiding her gently to the stretcher, but Evelyn kept her eyes fixed on Jason. 2 police officers advanced, and he didn't fight when they grabbed his arms, snapping cold cuffs around his wrists. The neighbors gathered, murmuring, eyes wide with shock. Jason kept his head down, but Evelyn caught one last glimpse of his face, shame, fear, and the bitter taste of his own downfall. As they wheeled her toward the ambulance, Evelyn lifted her head, her voice sharp and clear, for all to hear. "He thought he could lock me away? Instead, he locked away his own future." The gurney rolled forward, the night air cool against her skin. For the first time in years, Evelyn felt free, not just from Jason's control, but from the guilt that had weighed her down as a mother who always tried to fix everything. Jason's punishment would be carried out by the law, but the true revenge was already hers. He would live the rest of his life knowing he had been undone by the very woman he tried to break. And Evelyn? She had survived, and survival was the sharpest revenge of all.